saying, what would you do differently? Then I go, what would you do differently to do it again? Look, I'm doing hindsight anyway. How did this change the way you see yourself? What does this teach you about something? Did this version exist 2 years ago? Or did this version exist a year ago? 2 years ago? The deal runs through 2030. That was a good one that he brought up. The deal runs through 2032. You said you weren't trying to recover it. You said, and then I look. When I go, you said you weren't trying to recover lost time, you were looking forward. So what's a fight that's coming in 2032? I got traded during this time period. Isn't that interesting? This is the end. And then do you think you're a different negotiator because you raised me? Off script.
Terri's here.
She's here?
Yeah, we're gonna let her.
All right, great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready now. I feel it now. Off script. Let's get to it.
Hello, hello. Well, hello.
Well, hello.
Hey, bud.
You look amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We ready?
Good? We're good? Okay. Good, okay. Okay. Well, this is Off Script. Welcome to Off Script, where we can have a real conversation. I feel like we could have done this interview a bunch of different times in our lives, but now it just feels, yeah, a bunch of different times, but now it just feels right. When the stars align, you got to follow it, so we're here. But the deal, the CBA, the WNBA and the WNBPA reached an agreement, and you, as the executive director, you described the players as prepared, relentless, and united. And one of your players, Nneka Ogwumike, 10-time All-Star, president, she said the players are earning their value. And even Kathy Engelberg, WNBA commissioner, said that this is a defining moment in all of women's professional sports. So how did you feel when you're sitting there and you're looking and you're thinking, we have it won, or Kathy, we beat you, or we're with you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what did you feel in that moment?
Well, beat you? No. Yeah, that would suggest that this was a game. And it absolutely was not a game. Not for me, anyway. Not for anybody on our side of the table. This was about positioning the players for success, positioning them for building generational wealth, holding the teams accountable, demanding that they support professional athletes like professional athletes at the elite level, and that they show up as professional basketball teams. So we're gonna hold them accountable to just some minimum standard. No, I wasn't thinking that we beat them. I was thinking about the wins, very definitely. Our president, Nneka Ogwumike, charged us with a goal. And the goal was to achieve a transformational CBA. And we did that.
You mentioned that word accountability. Is that one of your pillars in your life and beyond, and what something you want to instill in the players that you represent?
Absolutely. This is my 11th season. Gosh, that's crazy, right? As their executive director, and whenever I talk about my position, whenever I talk about my role, I say it is a privilege to have this job. I say that out loud often. I have a leadership style that is about servant leadership, and you cannot lead until you serve first, and you cannot lead and you cannot serve unless you hold yourself accountable. So absolutely, it's one of my pillars, for sure. And I know that I report to the players, and I know they expect me to be held accountable too. That's absolutely true.
We'll get to what it meant to the league and what it meant to sports more going forward, but what did it mean to you personally?
Wow. You know, we achieved the biggest increase between CBAs across all professional sports, not just women's sports, across all professional sports. This means everything to me. I have said that this is the pinnacle of my career. It absolutely is. To have carried out the orders, the desire, the directive of the players in this way, and to have achieved the goal so big that I hope the WNBA players and their union are properly positioned in history for all time.
I heard there was a champagne toast at around 3 a.m. You want to?
3 a.m.?
That's what I heard. You can tell me about that.
No, so we will always remember the time in the wee hours of Wednesday, March 18th as 2:22 a.m. That is when the deal got done. The last term was negotiated, and the champagne bottles came out, and Alicia Clark very brilliantly, very deftly, opened a champagne bottle with a saber. She popped that cork, and we all, I think, breathed a sigh of relief, and we were ready to celebrate a little bit.
I don't want to get you off that celebratory moment, but was there ever a moment where you're in there and you're thinking, maybe not, maybe it falls through, maybe 30 years as a league, and this is the moment where, I don't know?
Heck no. Heck no. I never once thought that, not even in our toughest moments. You know why? You said it, 30 years, right? There was so much at stake for everybody, not just the players, for everybody, for every WNBA team and their ownership group, for every NBA team and their ownership group, for all the change makers and corporate partners and investors of the WNBA, for the WNBA as a league itself, for the NBA and this whole enterprise. There was too much at stake for everybody and not just the players. So no, this was never gonna fall through.
Not once, huh?
You know me better than that.
I do. Well, set the scene for me then. You're in that room a long time. I think, was there anything that stood out to you? Any features of the room? I mean, this is off script, so please describe it for me.
Okay, so negotiations took place in a variety of places. They took place in our home, our office space we share with the NBPA, you know that. We had bargaining sessions at the league office too, so our office space is, our office building is down by Bryant Park on 6th Avenue. The league office is up there on 5th Avenue. And when we finally were grinding close, we had bargaining sessions at either office, we were flip-flopping back and forth, and finally I made a call. And I said, we're coming back to the table, we're gonna meet, but we need a change of venue. Not going to your place, we're not gonna host you at our place, we need a neutral site. And the league, to their credit, chose the Langham Hotel. I think you've stayed there once or twice before. They chose the Langham Hotel, and it was perfect. It was the venue changing moment that we all needed, both sides needed, to propel us forward in these conversations. And the thing that stands out for me at the Langham Hotel, the service was great, staff was terrific, very professional, everything top notch. The thing that stands out for me is the peppermint tea. Believe it or not. And I was that mom on that last night who went back into our breakout room and scooped up all of the remaining peppermint tea bags, and put them in my bag. They went home with me. And I gotta remember the name. It's a Parisian tea, very, very French. Palais d'été. Palais d'été, a mint tea. Yes, write that down. That is the thing that stands out most. That is a very calming tea, relaxing tea. It's just what I needed.
I definitely spelled that wrong.
You took a couple years of French.
I did.
Palais d'été.
Palais d'été.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I guess that kept you comfortable. That was something that made you comfortable. What is something in there, in that same room, that made you uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable.
No, I wasn't uncomfortable. I mean, there may have been times I was frustrated or disappointed, but I wasn't uncomfortable. I had a job to do. So.
What's something that made you frustrated?
What's something that made me frustrated? Oh,
I won't pigeonhole you into what I think, but.
You're asking all the questions. What made me frustrated was hearing the league tell me that their proposal, which valued the players at less than 15% of the revenue, was appropriate. That frustrated me.
Well, before that, I'll take you not too far back yet, but around 2 weeks before that, K Plum and Stewie, their letter leaked to ESPN. They said there was a breakdown in communication between them and the league and the executive committee. When you first saw it, I'm not gonna ask you what you thought, but what did your body do before your brain caught up with you?
Oh, wow. You're asking all the questions. Okay. When I first saw that letter, I will tell you where I was. I was actually getting out of an Uber going home. It was very late at night. I had just come from their game. They had played each other in an unrivaled game in Brooklyn at Barclays Center. So it was probably around midnight or so, and I got an email and I got their letter. What did my body feel? What did my body experience in my mind? How did I process it? Very quickly that I needed to respond to player leadership very quickly. That's the flash of moment that I have. You know, for me, I think I processed also very quickly in those moments that I had an opportunity. I can't say we, because that letter was to me, right? That I had an opportunity. That's the way I look at that. I've talked about my leadership style. I'm very committed to that as a servant leader. And I think the players know that, and I think anybody who knows me knows I would run through a wall for WNBA players. So yeah, their letter was an opportunity to have a larger conversation with the two of them. I believe we will have that, and that conversation will stay internal and private. Communication, listening, building trust are all the things that I know are critically important to this job. I've known that from the beginning. So I'm gonna lean on that, and I'm gonna lean into that, and have the conversation with KP and Stewie. This was a high pressure situation. You said it was 2 weeks before. I think I had even lost track of time. Throughout, this was a high pressure situation. It was intense. Negotiations are intense, and we had talked about that as player leadership and with the general player body. We had talked about how this would be intense, and that's the way it played out. And that's okay. I've called this, you know, our how the sausage gets made moment. It's not pretty, you know. That's the way it looks. That's the way it felt. And that's okay. For those of you who eat sausage and enjoy sausage, you know in the end it's all worth it. So I probably felt a lot of emotions, but how I processed it was, as their executive director, I have an opportunity right now. Perhaps on this side of negotiations, on this side of having achieved a truly transformational deal, perhaps things look a little differently for everybody, particularly our strategy. So yeah, I look forward to the conversation. I know it's gonna be a good one.
I think, just like you said, internally and opportunity, these words that you're using are just another example on why you're successful in what you do. And I'm sure they're thanking you. In fact, I know that they're thanking you every day for what you do and your commitment to this, and the fact that like even your reaction to the whole thing was just so as poised, as thoughtful, because you were poised and thoughtful before, you're poised and thoughtful during, and you're poised and thoughtful after. That none of that changes. So it's very genuine. It's very, well, you know what it is. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It really, it's amazing to watch. Yeah, it's groundbreaking, and we're sitting here now. So I don't know. I mean, it's amazing. At the table specifically, I know one of the terms, the retiree is getting around 30 to 100K. Congrats. They weren't physically in the room at the table during this time, but when this was achieved, was there anybody you were thinking of specifically? Was there anybody you had in mind when this was getting done?
I was probably thinking about every retired player I had met that had ever reached out to me during my tenure. You know, you're right, they weren't at the table with us, right? They weren't a part of negotiations. They did not know that we were fighting for them as much as we were fighting for current players, as much as we were fighting for future players. Just probably a few days before we reached this deal, I took the opportunity to fly to Atlanta. Kira Braxton, WNBA player, had passed away, and her funeral services were that weekend. And I went to Atlanta to be there to represent the union, of course, and to meet her family. I had an opportunity to just talk very briefly and embrace her mom. And I said, I know you're not gonna remember this. I just want us to have this moment right now. We'll talk later, but I wanna say something to you. We're fighting for your daughter and her memory and so many other players. We haven't gotten it across the finish line. This is what I told her. We haven't gotten this across the finish line yet, but I'm really hopeful, and I will circle back with you. I just wanted you and I to have met, is what I told her mom. Because of Tina Charles, what we were fighting for, the recognition payments is what they're called for our veterans, for our legends. They go not only to the retired player, but if the retired player has passed, which was Kira Braxton's situation, they go to the family. And that was so meaningful. And that happened because of Tina Charles. And I want everybody to know that. She made sure that we took care of the family. And she was right on. She was spot on.
Let me ask, when you were talking to her, did you know that the families were going to get an opportunity to receive the payment? Did you know that at the time, before it got done?
Tina demanded, you said when I was talking to Tina, Tina demanded this. Tina said, what happens? So great question. Tina said, what happens if the retired player is no longer with us? And I said, we all looked around the table and we said, well, we hadn't thought of that. And she said, well, that would be a shame if it doesn't go to the family. Like, that can't happen. And we said, we'll work on that, we'll fix it. And that was in like the final days that things were moving and happening. So we had to go back to the table and say, and by the way, you know, make sure that this payment goes to the families, that it doesn't just sit in a pot or it doesn't just disappear.
That's beautiful. That was amazing. I want to take you back even further. Georgetown law. I'll leave it open. I want to know, what does that mean to you? How did that shape you?
Wow. So granddaddy was a lawyer. Of course, you know this. And I grew up wanting to be a lot like him and follow in his footsteps. Georgetown law was the opportunity for me to continue my Georgetown career. So I'm a double Hoya. I'm a Hoya lawyer, undergrad at Georgetown, Georgetown Law Center. I bleed blue and gray. I am humbled by that first year in law school where you are fighting, you know, to get the grades and to study hard, to get on the radar of your professors and Yeah, it was critically important to it. I'm glad I was able to maintain that Georgetown tradition. Yeah.
You say you were fighting. Were all those fights you had, and maybe undergrad, but it sounded like it was a breeze. But in law school, did that help you in ventures that you went to get professionally after that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Nothing's handed to you. You've got to learn early that life is hard, and you've got to work hard for what you want to achieve. You got to make a plan. Am I learning that? I'm learning that throughout my life. That's the way grandmama and granddaddy raised me. Undergrad, law school, my career, my jobs out of law school. Absolutely. I'm fighting all the time. And did that help me? Did that build, that momentum and help me to where I am right now? Absolutely. I don't think anybody does a look back, right, on their life and says, oh, that didn't matter. Everything mattered. Everything built on the other thing. Yeah.
Back to the negotiation.
Sure.
What were you thinking, right, but not saying?
Oh. What lives in my head stays in my head. Next question.
Okay. We'll come back to it. Is there anything, well, let me say it, thinking, not saying, that lives in your head, but what did you have to hold back? What was it that you really had to be conscious of?
Well, I had an interesting team at the table during negotiations. Our staff was brilliant. We had sometimes we had all of our advisors there, and towards the end we had some of our advisors at the table. Deb Willig and Jess Caggiano, our outside legal counsel, they were definitely there throughout the whole thing, of course. And Deb is quite spirited. She comes with a lot of firepower, and so it was good to kind of play off her a little bit. There were times, she was good cop, not many times. Maybe I was good cop and she was bad cop.
Really?
During negotiations.
Oh, okay.
I know. I knew you'd find that kind of hard to believe.
I didn't think you had that.
Yeah, I got a little good cop in me.
Oh, well, I don't have this. I just thought of this, but maybe it's something that I feel like I've thought about for a while, being around you. But does doubt ever come for you in anything? Like not just the negotiation room, Georgetown, everything in between. Does doubt ever come for you? You're human, so does doubt ever come?
I am human. You are right about that. I have reflective moments, absolutely. Yes. Do I have doubts? Certainly. I think I believe them more to be self-reflective moments. I look to come to most situations prepared, or as prepared as I can be. You have watched me do that throughout my career, and as you were growing up. I try to play a lot of scenarios in my head, a lot of what ifs in my head. So what does it look like for me? I probably have the expression of trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube, like determination. And then at the end of the day, I'm gonna phone a friend. And during negotiations, I did that a lot. I would reach out to our advisors, I'd reach out to mentors that I've had in my life, and start more than a few conversations with, what am I missing? You gotta have reflective moments. Doubt? I don't know.
I feel like that's really why I asked, because you do so much preparing. You've prepared for a bunch of different things in my lifetime where I'm looking like, you don't need to prepare for this scenario. This one's not gonna happen. Like you might prepare for 30 and I'm like, yeah, well, these 5 aren't gonna happen, but you still prepare for it, which is why I never end up seeing the doubt, which is why I probably thought to ask, like, does that ever come? But I feel like you mitigate that by being so prepared. Like you shrink that. Every time you prepare even more, it goes down. I would get that. I would get that more than anyone in what I do. So,
Yeah.
but what anger could still come, like other emotions still arise. Like what pissed you off? What pissed you off in there? But you had to stay composed. You did.
Well, yeah, anger did happen. Anger did bubble up. You said, I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm human. You asked me what made me uncomfortable or what, and my response just now was about the league saying, they were standing by their proposal that the players were, that they were valuing the players at less than 15% of the gross revenue. What pissed me off was their double down on that question, because I repeated the question. I said, now let me make sure we're both understanding each other. You know how I do. And I repeated the question, and I said, and I'm going to remind you, I report to the player. So what you tell me, I'm going to tell them. And so what pissed me off was them saying, yes, we stand by our proposal. We think this is appropriate. And that proposal, again, had the players valued at less than 15%. That pissed me off. That was unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Were you aware, or was there any cost of all this, negotiations, the early mornings, late nights, for you personally or emotionally?
Sure. I had no sleep.
Yeah, truly.
I had no sleep. That was absolutely a personal cost, but all worth it. Mm-hmm. There was definitely a return on investment for what we did, for sure. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Would I do it the same way again? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
No sleep. You're giving up sleep. What else did you have to give up?
You mean in terms of getting like the deal done and across? Yeah. This is a great deal. This is a great CBA. This is a transformational CBA. I'm going to say it again. We fell short in not achieving pensions for the players. I know you and your brothers in the NBPA have pensions. You do. What I am proud, though, is Aaron Drake, my staff member, worked really hard to ensure that there was a robust 401k plan. Jana Pell-Marinelli, who's a retired player on staff, she worked really hard to make sure that retired players had health benefits, a health reimbursement plan. Michael Goldshaw, the whole team, he was so committed to making sure we stayed with our system. And in the end of the day, we got all of those. So we'll have to fight for a pension the next time. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give that up. Mm-hmm. But I'm proud of those things, and maybe it doesn't feel like too much of a compromise. There are so many wins in this CBA. There are so many wins. I mean, max salary player. She in the old CBA, she was barely making $250,000. Now a max player is $1.4 million. Mm-hmm. That's dynamite. Mm-hmm. That's dynamite. There's a $7 million salary cap. I'm not comparing ourselves to you all in the NBA. We just look towards you to see what is possible, what the future could be, what it could look like for us. I'm proud of those wins. They're huge. They are huge.
Hindsight is something I really don't want to go that route. I think it's a bit basic, but yes. Is there anything that you compromised on? You kind of alluded to it a little bit, that still doesn't sit right with you. As proud as I am of the recognition payments for our
legends, the retired players, the 30,000, the 50,000, the 100,000. I wish that was a little bit more. I do. I don't know. What else?
What would you do differently?
What would I do differently?
That's hindsight right there. So there you go. That's out the door. But there you go.
We were so prepared. We spent so much time. We had a heck of a advisory team. You know what? There were so many people that reached out to us, so many reporters that reached out to us around the time of NBA All-Star. And they said, I heard there's going to be a protest. I heard there's going to be a strike. I was like, what are you talking about? Our friends in traditional labor, the New York City Labor Council, the AFL-CIO, at some point during negotiations, they helped us stand up a large inflatable rat. Yeah, large inflatable rat was displayed in front of the NBA store. And across labor, you know what that rat represents. It's a universal symbol of labor protest. And what would I do differently? Maybe we should have gone to, maybe we should have gone out to LA for NBA All-Star. It wasn't the plan at all, but maybe we should have, and taken Scabby the rat with us. Good name, right? And brought the fight to the league at that level. Maybe that in February, maybe that would have escalated things and sped things up a little bit. I'm kind of kidding.
We never know.
Never know.
I want to get back to you personally.
Okay.
How did this change the way, or maybe it didn't, but how did this change the way you see yourself?
When you're in war, you are humbled, and you are reminded that you are human, that you are vulnerable, and as long as you're mindful of that, and you can assemble a team to shore up those vulnerabilities, maybe those weak spots, then you're gonna bolster your side and strengthen your side and strengthen me. And so what I learned is I'm human. I'm not perfect. I am vulnerable. And it's important to let people know that you need help. It only makes you stronger.
What did this teach you about your own limits, coming from other jobs that pushed you in different ways, or maybe not more or less, but different ways? So what did this teach you about your own limits?
I don't have any, apparently. The thing that I've said about this job is it's professional development all the time, every day. This is the one job, not my job clerking for a judge, which I loved, not working in law firms, not working at the NCAA. It's this job in which I've had professional development every day, and it just stretches me in a good way so that I can be tested and still move through and move forward and progress, so that I can recognize where my weaknesses is, where I need to be shored up and strengthened. I'm just constantly thinking about the players and thinking about more for them and positioning them for success. And when it comes to them and my role, there are no limits.
Did this same person we're talking about, did this person exist a year ago from now, or 2 years ago?
Oh, thank God negotiations weren't 2 years ago or a year ago. No, this has been a journey. I needed the last year for sure. I needed the last 2 years for sure to grow into the person that I am right now, and for everything that I have experienced professionally and personally, absolutely. This person is not, 2023, 2024 Terri, 2025 going into 2026 Terri, yeah, that's who needed to show up.
Well, you said you were not trying to recover lost time. You were looking forward. And this deal runs through 2032. So what's the fight in 2032?
Pensions.
Pensions?
Yeah, more. Aaron Drake, Jane Appel Marinelli, and I were down in Phoenix with the McDonald's All-American players. And I gotta tell you, there's a young woman who works for McDonald's who came up to me and she said, Mrs. Jackson, I remember you when Jaren was a McDonald's All-American. I supported your family. And I said, oh my gosh. So I want to give you a little shout out, like you were remembered in that moment. But we talked with the players and we talked with the families, and it was interesting. The players, Aaron Drake had this exercise where the players were to fill out, what they wanted the WNBA to look like when they arrived into the league, and what they hoped we had fought for or would be ready to fight for. And they were talking about more money, more money, more money, higher salaries. So folks are paying attention, right? This is a business. It always has been a business, and lots of dollars are flowing into this business. And these young players in high school, getting ready to go to college, start their collegiate careers, they're aware of that. So what the fight will be next time, we're positioned now with a salary system that is tied to the revenue that the players are driving. The fight will be for a higher percentage, a bigger slice of the pie next time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given.
Yeah, that's a given. You're in the room, you're calm, you're a different woman than you were a year ago, 2 years ago, you're drinking tea, you're up late, there's all types of stuff going on, and then I get traded. It's an interesting time period for you. Is there, I'll leave that open for you. What happened during that time?
Yeah, that was exactly the wrong time. That was exactly the wrong time, not anything that we were truly expecting to happen. Yeah, in the thick of it, right, that this happens. Work-life balance is hard for me, but you and my mom, grandmama, are always top priorities for me. I think I sprang into action, got into mom mode real quick, and reached out to you. I don't even know if you answered the phone on the first time, so I think I had to call your agent, and then call you and make sure you were okay. And I think we traded texts, and I said, this may feel like the exact wrong time to be telling you this, but journal and record this moment. And you were like, I'm already on it. So when you responded that way, I said, okay, he's good, or mostly good. It's like what I told you the night before you were drafted, right? Everything happens for a reason, and God does not make mistakes, and where you go is where you go, and you shine. And I am very definitely proud of the big fish that you became in a small pond called Memphis, and I know what's ahead for you in Salt Lake. And I'm just so proud. I knew you were going to be okay. Just needed to see that you were going to be okay. And as Beyonce say, get back to business, right?
She said that?
And go run the world. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're probably bumping that every day. I'm probably not bumping that every day. But, shout out her. And I'm a jazz man now, so shout out everybody back home. And yeah, I'm ready to put in the work, and I feel so good about that. So take note wherever y'all are in the world. Take note. And
I say it's a breath of fresh air, and it's not just because of the mountains and all of that, but that landscape certainly helps.
The backyard helps.
Beautiful view from your new home. Yes, indeed.
100%.
Yes, indeed.
100%.
Yes, indeed.
Before we wrap, I want to know, do you think you're a different kind of negotiator because you raised me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Raising you, it was a negotiation.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. I am different because, absolutely, yes. Your childhood was about negotiating. Bedtimes, playtimes, yes. Basketball in the house, yes. It was all of it a negotiation. So yeah, you want to take your win in this
I was
too?
about to say, who won?
Okay, well.
I mean, we're here now.
Well, we're here
Good thing
now.
I dribbled in the house.
Well, we're here now.
Well, pretend none of us are here. We're all gone. It's just you.
Okay, you're not
You
here.
and your thoughts. What would you admit about this win if we weren't here? To yourself.
That's easy. This was about the players. This was always about the players. This was their plan, their goal, their direction. I'm proud of them for standing 10 toes down, as Nafisa Collier would say. I'm proud of them for sticking to the game plan, sticking to the strategy until the end. And I'm proud of them for leaning into what it means to be a collective and their identity as a union. That's who we are, first and foremost, a union, and we're proud of that.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you, Bud.
Well, we talked a while. Is there anything that you're leaving out? Like what part of this story would you normally leave out?
What I leave out? I don't think we left anything out. You asked all the questions. You've done well. I don't know that we've left anything out. I am grateful for the support of other players' associations across sports. I am grateful for the support of traditional labor unions that showed up for us and civil rights groups that showed up for us in a big time way. I think folks know WNBA players advocate for, their communities. They show up in big ways. WNBA players mobilize this country to get people to register to vote and to complete the census not too long ago. They flipped the Senate with that Georgia seat not too long ago. WNBA players get the job done, and I'm proud that there are folks who stood up for them, and I'm grateful for that. I'll just say, make sure, thank you for this interview, Bud, this was great. Make sure that history reflects what they did. Because what they did wasn't just for themselves, it was for the players on the rise. It wasn't just for women, across professional sports. This is women in any industry. This is big time. This is the ability for folks to recognize when you go to work, you demand your worth and you stand tall for that. Because that's what the WNBA players did. And I hope history reflects what they did, what they achieved, and just continues to inspire young girls, young women in any industry. 100%. So maybe I did leave that out. I left that part out.
Off script, that's why we're here.
All right.
You have to know. This was amazing. Thank you. You're a true joy to me and the world, and you've done so much. Obviously, I could list it for hours, and I'm glad we got to talk about this specifically. We could have been broad and got into all types of stuff, but this was the right moment. This was the right timing. And it's the first one. It's the first one. It's off script. It was only right. And it was great.
Awesome. Well,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm glad to have been the first person to sit in one of these chairs and to have this conversation with you. And truly, I'm seeing a moment when the student becomes the teacher. So Well done, Grasshopper.
Thank you. It's off script. Look, I got this book. It's nice, right?
It's a good
Black.
book. It's a good look.
Yeah, it's nice. I got glasses.
Down to the chucks. It's a good look.
Everything. I like that. How we feeling? Nice.
I feel
good.
great, even though I've got sweat running down my armpit. Because I didn't wear the silk. Because I didn't wear the silk. Okay, shoes are banging. Just one, and they're mine, Tony. Give me a little credit.
That way. Got it on.
I didn't have any tea.
It's not just on you, but it's in you. But it's on you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. So.
You were good, bud. Do I sound like I'm surprised? I'm sorry.
It's off script.